Three, two, one. All right, here we go. Episode number 2 of AMP Podcast. How are you guys doing today? I am your host, Matt. How are you, my friends?
I'm doing good. I know. I was trying to be courteous and let you go so that we didn't talk over each other.
Look at that. Who says chivalry is dead, huh?
Yeah. Well, I am Rico. I am doing very good. I am very excited.
And I'm Andrew. I'm doing great. I'm very excited to get this going.
Hell yeah. Alrighty then. So, last episode I mentioned that I am going to be recommending 2 sets of movies. The first one that we're going to be discussing is going to be Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. Now, for each movie recommendation going forward, whoever recommended the movie will be the one to explain it. So I recommended this movie, so I'll be the one to explain this one. So Nightmare Alley is a movie about a guy who is running from his past, and he comes across a carny show, and you slowly get to see him move his way up through the ranks, and it's kind of a powerful movie about a lot of shit, a lot of fucked up stuff. I really like this movie. I personally don't think it's one of Guillermo's best, but yeah, this is still a freaking solid movie altogether, all things considered. What did you guys think?
So,
I think...
Go ahead.
Son of a bitch. I'll go ahead and go. All right, my bad. But I definitely enjoyed this movie. I agree with you. I don't think it was one of Del Toro's best movies, but I think it's one of my personal favorites. It's up there for me in terms of favorites with Pacific Rim and Hellboy. I think it's one of his stronger movies personally. But I can definitely see throughout his overall filmography, it's not his best. But the themes, the ideas that he kind of shows us throughout this film it's really interesting, really, really trauma based, which I really liked. That was a really interesting concept that he threw in there.
Yeah, I gotta agree. A lot of the things about this movie, I would say, definitely is better than a lot of the other things that he's made. But I wouldn't say it's his best. But in terms of stylized, this thing was really I love the whole setting that it made throughout the movie. It's very dark. It feels pretty grimy the whole time. And I gotta say, the characters in it all felt like their own original characters. None of them seemed like they blended in with each other, and everyone was just memorable throughout the entire way. So I actually really appreciated that, and I completely despised Bradley Cooper, so that's good.
Wow, that's a fun fact I didn't know about you, Rico. I didn't realize there was some hatred for Rocket Raccoon over there.
No, seriously, yeah.
Well, what's wrong with Bradley, Rico?
Well, in this movie, the entire way through, he was very conniving and constantly pretty much just looked out for himself and how he could better himself by taking advantage of anyone else. So the whole I was just I hate this guy.
It's interesting because the entire movie is him doing that, but in the very, very beginning, you could kind of tell he's not entirely like that. Not per se sure the intro of the movie is him disposing of a body, but as soon as he gets there, you do kind of I don't know, you kind of get a sympathetic vibe from him at the beginning of the movie. I'm sure he's you do get the feel that he's running away from a past, a traumatized past, and later on in the movie you do get a little bit more backstory into that. But but yeah, at the beginning of the movie, he does kind of give off like this sympathetic vibe, and yeah, I mean, at first he was. I'm not gonna lie, he was very likable to me at first, and I appreciate seeing that side of him before he does start going down this like downward spiral, and as the movie progresses, and he does start to become more of the tool that he is.
And I think just the way this is kind of a point that I made when we were talking about the Batman. Like, I think when an actor is able to portray so much without saying anything was really interesting because the first like I think it was like what 15 minutes of the movie he doesn't say a single word. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of going through the motions, and you kind of see what he's feeling like when he's disposing of the body. There is this sense of like guilt and like regret of doing, like what he's doing, like getting rid of the body and everything. But at the same time, it's also kind of like he's ready to leave and just kind of find somewhere else and forget his past, and he does all that without speaking, and I think that's really a testament to Bradley Cooper's acting, and I think that was really, really good on his part.
Yeah, he definitely dives into it, I gotta say. Like, this character does feel like it's its own character, but I mean, at the same time, the reason why I hated this character was he was just a sleazeball the whole way through. Like, at first I thought I was going to be sympathizing with him in the beginning, but then he immediately, the moment that Pete, the magician guy, that former magician guy, leaves the house and leaves his wife with Bradley Cooper, he pretty much immediately is like completely fine with having adulterous sex with her, and he keeps it from her. He's the entire way through. He's very like cowardly in everything he does when it comes to even disposing of his dad. Like
Spoilers.
Oh, is this not a spoiler?
It is. Yeah, it's okay. That's probably something I should have cleared up a little bit beforehand too. From here on out, we can just whenever a major spoiler is going to occur, just mention it beforehand. I'm going to be putting spoilers discussion in the bracket of each of our videos, so I mean, people are aware that we're getting into that stuff, but but yeah, just it would help out just to throw it out there beforehand.
It's fine. Us talking about it, we'll edit this part out.
yeah, we'll cut it out. Anyways, spoilers.
Go on, dude.
Spoilers, everyone.
Yeah, full on spoilers. It's okay. Just go into anything, my dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, so spoilers. Bradley Cooper kills his dad, and it's something that is shown like in snippets throughout the movie. And each time you get a little bit more story, you kind of figure out who it is. Like he's, because at first it's a body in a wrapped up blanket that he's just throwing in a hole and lighting up. And as the movie goes on, you realize that he was beaten by his dad, that Pete pretty much figured out like pretty quickly after just doing an act on him. And then you see that Bradley Cooper never really stood up to him at all. When you can kind of see that with his final dialogue to him, he says, "I always hated you," and then just like lets him die while his dad is in his like most vulnerable, compromised state possible. And he didn't have that kind of courage while he was like in health, like a healthy person. Like he didn't have that courage then. He only like waited until it was convenient for him, like when he was for sure not going to be hurt in any way.
Yeah, and to harken back to the point about how he was abused, it does remind me of one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when that scene with Kate Blanchett where she's basically analyzing him and trying to figure out more stuff about him, and then she starts basically touching on points of alcohol and how he doesn't like it, and she picks up on that, and then as she starts to dig deeper and deeper, you start to realize it starts to bother him more and more the more she starts to dig. And I just found something like that very interesting, instead of like hammering home like, oh, he had an abusive father and he was a dick. It doesn't really show or explain that. Instead, it kind of, I like the way that it explains it in this type of scene, because you're learning more about Bradley Cooper and Kate Blanchett in this scene, and just the way that it was acted and the way it was portrayed by Bradley as she's chipping away at hurtful scenes from his past. Like he's doing a fantastic job right there, and I just love that scene written wise altogether.
Yeah, I think everybody in the film, like cast wise, does a really good job with their acting. Like even like some of the smaller roles, like Ron Perlman, he was really good, even though he wasn't really on screen. And
Yeah.
but to hammer back to your point, Matt, about like the way they depicted his childhood abuse it was like that whole idea of like showing us less is telling us so much more kind of thing, and I really like that. I like how Del Toro did that really well.
Yes. Yeah, the dialogue in this movie is very strong. I'm gonna check through the IMDb right now to see if he wrote it. Okay, so he did have some screenplay here. It was written by him and a chick named Kim Morgan, and it's based off a novel. Oh, I didn't even know that.
I was about to add to that point. Not only that, this movie is actually a remake because they made this movie in the first time they made it was in 1947. It was directed by someone named Edmund Golding. I think that's how you say his name.
Yes, that's right.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
know
guys
that.
watched? Have you guys watched that original by any chance or no?
No, I didn't even know it existed.
No, I saw it advertised along this movie. I think they showed it in the HBO Max front page or something like that.
Oh, really?
Oh, interesting.
I didn't see that. I have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now, and yeah, 1947. Oh wow, interesting. Yeah, I might watch it before next episode, and might do a little tidbit at the beginning of that next one on my thoughts on this one. Huh. Oh, so, anyways, what did you guys think about the look of this movie, cinematography-wise? I personally think this is like one of Del Toro's strongest visual-wise, and look, just to make sure my facts are correct, I'm pretty sure it was nominated for cinematography for the most recent Oscars announcement.
It
It
was.
was totally well deserved. Like the look of this movie and just the color of every scene is just beautiful. Like just like the beginning in particular, I love this one shot where it's just Bradley Cooper getting off a bus, and you get the first shot of this carnival, and you just get all these really pretty bright neon colors, and you also have like a really beautiful dark background with some lightning going on. There's just the look of this movie. I was a really huge fan of. It looks fantastic.
You can go, Rico.
All right, thank you. So
Gotta pass a baton or something.
I know. I was like, I'll let Andrew go first, and then I'll jump in. All right, but with this one, I have to say, it gave me like strong Pan's Labyrinth vibes. Like a lot of the shots in it, like especially when concerning the geek, when they first revealed the geek underneath the hole in the floor, and like they kind of show him slowly creeping up, like the camera slowly like zooming in on him, and then his whole deteriorated like physique. Like I love that. I was like, man, I'm getting like a the Pale Man, I think that's what they call him, the Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth. I was getting that vibe the whole time. It's like a...
I could see that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I was imagining it. I was like, oh man, I definitely see the stylistic approach that he was taking. It really did take it from Pan's Labyrinth in a lot of different ways. But production on this was amazing too.
It was,
Yeah.
Glad that I let Rico go first, because the point I was going to make with in terms of the cinematography was actually the way they shot them going after the geek when he first escapes. Like I like the way they lit the maze house or the haunted house, whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or the fun house, like the way it was shot while he was looking for him, and then like I kind of like the way the camera moved when the geek came at Bradley Cooper, and he kind of just picked it up with one arm and just slammed him against the floor. I just like the way the camera kind of moved with him as he was dropping the geek on the floor.
Yeah, that's some. Yeah, it was shot beautifully for how brutal it was.
Yeah, what?
I also,
It was quick brutalness. It wasn't like too much, you know.
yeah, and I also want to just say, like, just well, what insane foreshadowing that was too for
Yeah.
what's to happen at the end of the movie.
Which was, I guess, a point that I wanted to make about the movie. I love the message in it about the cycle of life and how one person can be at the top of the hill, then they can just spiral down and become exactly what they look down on at one point in their life. And I really liked that kind of message in the movie because it happened to Bradley. Throughout spoilers, guys, Bradley Cooper's character, his story doesn't end very well. He starts off at the carnival, then proceeds to gain a lot of success with his wife, Molly. That was her name, right? Molly?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. I realized that because I rewatched it with my girlfriend Molly.
Exactly, which is a funny little thing. So hopefully, Matt, you don't have the same fate as Bradley Cooper in Nightmare Alley.
Jesus Christ, bro! No, I'm way more of a nicer guy.
You are, and you should be the new Bradley Cooper. Forget that guy. But like I was saying, so he gains his success and everything. He's doing very well as and then Pete was the one who taught him his kind of method of reading people and kind of being like a psychic. And
yes, that was a great scene. Yes.
What loved Pete's fear, his fear of like, hey, you don't want to become like this kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it just adds to that whole message. Like, there's even people in your life as you're spiraling or you're heading towards that kind of downfall. They're warning you like, hey, don't do this. This is not going to end well for you. And then it was just that other idea of hubris, like, oh, I'm not like that. I'll get through it just fine. I'm different kind of thing, but you'll end up just like everybody else kind of thing. And I really like that too.
Yeah, especially with how many times, like how many opportunities he had to just kind of stop. Like where he was.
Oh my god.
He had so many.
Yes.
Oh man, like all throughout, like even when Pete, like in the very beginning of the movie, Pete was talking about the whole God's eye and how you start believing your own like hype. Like you believe that you are capable of doing all this kind of magnificent like miracles and especially if that's like the kind of situation where if you put a morally corrupt person in a position of power that is not like conditioned to just show that kind of restraint, he just abuses it like constantly throughout the movie. Like there's so many different points in the movie where like for instance Xena, she after the show she told that one lady that like, hey, it's just all smoke and mirrors, like I'm sorry if you really thought that your brother was beside you, like it's not real. And then she's like making up for it constantly throughout the movie. They're saying don't do spook shows, like don't do that, like we don't do that, we don't condone that kind of activity. But he never like grew up in it like how Molly did or how any of the other cast did in the carnival, or so he never like had that discipline, so he was just using it to like benefit him throughout the entire movie.
It's the whole concept of like an outsider looking in. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to say
that's exactly how it is. Yeah, it's he was just taking little bits and pieces from every single person, just trying to use it to like benefit himself. And he had so many people telling him to stop.
Yeah, dude. And yeah, I just wanted, freaking. And what's crazy is that like the very last job that is basically what gets him. And I just now that we're basically here at this point,
territory basically at this point.
We're in major spoiler territory, but there is some form of criticisms that I want to get into. That I did rewatch this movie last night in preparation for this, and there were a few things that I felt bothered me a little bit, and I felt like if it was just written a little bit differently, it could have been a bit more of a stronger film for me. But the one major thing that I wanted to get into that really did bother me was that so the it basically gets to the point in the movie where his psychologist, Kate Blanchett's character, gives him another job, And basically, this is a what's the actor's name? I think his name's Richard Jenkins, I believe.
Yes, yeah, Richard Jenkins. I think that's his name.
Yeah. So basically, he wants to apologize to, I believe, his sister for like basically just having like a shitty childhood and not being there when she passed away, etc. Just basically wants to lament, and say goodbye, and basically he wants to manifest her, and that's the request that he gives to Bradley Cooper. But I just found that a little weird because Bradley Cooper was not known for like manifestation. So like I don't know, I just found it weird that Richard Jenkins' character is asking for you know something along those lines, or is literally asking for physical manifestation if he's not known for that. He's just been mostly known for communicating with the dead.
Yeah, I agree with you because as I was watching the movie, I didn't rewatch it last night, but I did watch it maybe like a week or so ago after we had recorded the first one, or no, not after. Timeline doesn't matter. Point is, I had rewatched it recently, and I did notice that too. I was like, well, isn't this guy like a millionaire? Why does he seem so stupid? Like, it doesn't make sense for him to just believe that Bradley Cooper could do this. And I remember he was very hesitant at the beginning of it too, kind of like putting him through a lie detector test at one point to see if he's actually like, a mystic or.
Yes.
I found it very confusing that he was like, kind of falling for it, even though he was so well reserved as well when he was first introduced. So it was a little weird for me as well.
Yeah, and so freaking yeah, that's just another thing too. I actually do really like the polygraph scene. I thought that was pretty pulled off really well.
Yes, 100%. Like Bradley Cooper, he does really good. Like you can feel how tense he is. How like, oh my god, this could be it. I could get fucked over. This is the end, kind of thing. Like everything throughout was really well done. The way the camera would cut to each of the actors in the room was really good too. Like just really well shot.
Yeah, and I also like Richard Jenkins' reactions. Like, "There's no way!" Like he's lying. Or I like his little fit afterwards. Like, wow, that's some bullshit. But it does convince him to proceed forward with the request of manifestation. But like I said, though, there's nothing in the movie. Like even when Bradley Cooper does have his own show, he doesn't. From what I've seen in the movie, it doesn't show him doing anything along the lines of manifestation. So I don't really understand why Richard Jenkins' character would think he could do something like that. I don't know. I find it a little weird.
I feel like with Richard Jenkins' character, it was kind of like he saw that like there may actually be like a supernatural. Like if he can talk to her, why can't he do this? Like I feel like he looked into it himself and he was hoping it was gonna pan out. And when he like brought it up to Bradley Cooper's character, instead of just being like, "No, I can't do that," he led him on, which further like emboldened him to continue down that path where he was just asking about it, and like where at first it was a request and then it became a demand, like a life or death demand. And he just kept digging himself into a ditch just because he wanted to basically say, like, I could get more money out of this. Like, just trying to think of the next thing that could benefit him without thinking of the consequences to it.
Yeah, the lead up to, like the motivations, like, I do like. I just don't like the excuse of, like, him. Like I feel like we could have got the same result even with just talking with the dead. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like the whole manifestation thing could have just been taken out completely, and it would instantly be a better movie for me because you don't have to go through this whole bullshit of like Bradley Cooper needs to get his wife to dress up as her, and they need to go through this whole fiasco of fooling this poor old dude who just wants basically to just pour his heart out because he's had so much shit on his mind for the past few years. And like I don't know, I just felt like writing wise you could have just written this whole scenario differently and still had like the same emotional impact, because now I'm just thinking about like how dumb the setup is, because I do understand that it is, hammering down on, like, Bradley Cooper will do anything for, money, and I understand it on that point, but I just, writing wise, it's just so dumb
to have
Yeah,
it
it
be
is.
like the crescendo of the movie.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just feel like there was like I kind of didn't need the whole subplot with him and trying to find his sister. I felt like we could have gotten more time with
Yes.
like Brad and the therapist. Like I was more interested in their dynamic
Yeah.
throughout the film.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Yeah.
Like I feel like despite however way the whole meeting with I guess his name is Ezra Grindle, Richard Jenkins' character, how
Okay.
that
Thanks for looking
ended,
that up.
yeah, how that ended really didn't have an impact on like what was going to happen between Bradley Cooper and the psychologist or the therapist. Like it didn't have any impact. She was still going to do the same thing regardless.
Well,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just would have led, and then he still would have gone down the road he did at the very end, and all that stuff. So it just didn't feel necessary to have Richard Jenkins' character there. Not to diss him because he's a great actor. He's super great in what was it, Arrested Development? I love him in that show. But
yeah.
but like, what I think is just like I feel like it just wasn't really because the only thing we got out of it, which I enjoyed, was when like Bradley Cooper's character just pummels the shit out of him and breaks his whole nose off, which was like a great visual on their end. Like it looks really good,
yeah.
but also like it doesn't need kind of whole subplot.
Yeah, because like I felt like there was already enough drama with the whole love triangle thing between his therapist, or Dr. Lilith, I should say, and Molly. I felt like there was already tension in and of itself there. Like, don't get me wrong, like like I said, I do like the outcome of everything that played out. It's just that little tidbit of how some of this shit went down, how it's written, is what kind of makes me irritated. But to go back to Andrew's point where he basically kills Richard Jenkins' character in like the most brutal way possible, just basically smashes his face in, and oh man, it's just after that point it's just like, okay, yep, there's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
Like you sure you cheated before, like I, of course, like obviously I don't approve of that, and I still think he's a bad character. You could have still maybe came back from that, but just killing that poor old man, dude, like that's where you just officially lose all respect for him as a character.
First off,
Yeah.
he's not a poor old man. This man has hurt women. I
I was about-
hated this dude. I hated him so much.
He's not. He is
Okay,
not.
that's true. Yeah, true. Good point. Yeah.
He is a terrible, terrible human being, just like Bradley Cooper. So I didn't feel as bad. That's why I enjoyed when he was getting fucked up. I was like, yeah, that's what you get, buddy.
Yeah, honestly.
that's what you reaped and sowed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
But then just to kind of bring back my point, though, just kind of like how the movie has that theme of like how you could be at the top and end up at the bottom. Like Bradley Cooper's character at the very end ends up becoming a geek, like the first one we see at the beginning of the film, which is kind of like a crazy whole circle of life kind of thing. And I thought that was really well done on Del Toro and his whole team's part with the movie.
Now, how did you guys feel about the transition from where he left off after, I believe her name is Lilith, the therapist? Like,
Yes.
How did you guys feel about how he left off there and then how he ended up as the geek? Because I feel like he was a very like opportunistic person, and I feel like he could have gotten back on his feet.
Well, yeah, I do find that interesting because like he does have that realization. Well, I don't know. He does have that moment where Kate Blanchett says she loves him, and he hesitates for a second, and he kind of he doesn't know what to say. He doesn't want to say he loves her back. It kind of just it's just like the only person that he really loves is basically like himself. he doesn't really love anybody. He loves using people, from what it seems like.
Yeah, exactly. He's a conniving guy.
And which
And
is
yeah,
her betraying him so much better because it's like she's a therapist. She knows what he is, kind of thing.
and it's crazy. And I do find it a little weird he doesn't go with her, because even he, like earlier in the movie, like comes to the realization like, oh well, we're both bad. Like that's why we're good for each other. Or I don't think that was the exact line. I think he was like, I forgot what she was saying, but basically Bradley Cooper was saying that like, oh, I know you're bad because I am too. And so I don't know. I did find it all the more tragic that they didn't end up together, because it does seem like they're perfect for each other, but in the end, it just even he can't even commit to somebody by the end of it.
The thing that I liked about it, though, is that they were so much of a similar person where they use others for their own benefit. Bradley Cooper
Yes.
used them to, like, basically gain skills and also to elevate his position in life. Kate Blanchett's character used other people to basically break them down to make her feel superior to everyone else. And when Bradley Cooper embarrassed her in the first scene that they had together at the show, she was like, all right, it's my mission to basically tear this guy down from the start. Basically, she hated him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I do like that their relationship did form after that. And like from the intro compared to, I like how that we get an intro between two girls, between this Dr. Lilith and Molly, and then you see just the one who he's supposed to be with, and the movie doesn't really the movie in a way does kind of like, it is not going down the traditional route where like, all right, we're gonna have the whole, basically like we're gonna have like a happy ending by the end of it. Like basically our hero might go through some shit, but he's gonna land on his feet. But he doesn't. That doesn't happen with either woman, even though he does come across the one that essentially is the one for him.
I agree with that. I think that's a good point, because it would have been interesting to see him like with his happy ending, I guess. But I do like the ending we got better, because it's that whole concept of like not everything is going to go the way you want it to, and I think that's an interesting message to show in a movie, because you don't get movies like that often. So I like that. Kind of like funny enough how we were talking about the Batman. Quick spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. The movie Good Time that he was in, things don't end well for his character either. So I like that concept in movies where they're willing to be like, no, it's not going to end the way you think it should, kind of thing.
Yeah. I appreciate it not going the good old traditional Hollywood route.
I gotta say, when in that context, it really does kind of fit into the not noir, but the neo-noir genre, where basically there's no, in a neo-noir genre, there's never really ever a good ending to things. If you're a bad person, you get a bad ending. And I'm happy that all the good people in this movie got a good ending. Like Molly was like, I'm getting out of here. And she got out of there. And she probably had a much better life than Bradley Cooper. But just everyone in general, like Xena had a good ending too. She was featured in the newspaper, and it seemed like it was in very like high reviews, and apparently. And then pretty much...
I wish we would have got something with Willem Dafoe at the end.
Yeah,
like he was so underused in this movie.
Fair.
He really was.
Yeah,
he really, really was.
Clem was said, William Dafoe, he was said his act folded up, and he apparently had a bad ending because he had to sell all of his prized possessions, the stillborns and the pickled stillborns, basically. So
yeah, and the same one he had with the deformed eye was the one that we see when Bradley Cooper becomes a geek with the other carnival guy that he ends up, which I really liked. That was a good attention to detail.
Yeah, I like that how the radio was there too.
It was.
Yeah, a lot of callbacks at the end there. I like little details that are set up like that.
And that was another thing I really liked about this movie too was the how detailed Del Toro got with like showing what the carnival is, like how it works, kind of the ins and outs. Like Willem Dafoe's character Clem, the way he was used, which is what I appreciated about his performance, was like he explained how he gets a geek. He's like, oh, you got to do all this stuff. You know, you got to find a homeless guy. You know, get him addicted to drugs that only you can give him. And then at one point, he becomes dependent on you, so you'll start doing anything for you. And I was like, that is so fucked up, but it's so interesting how it's done, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, just some epic foreshadowing there. Well, it's not epic, but it is some really well put together foreshadowing with the geek setup.
Now, do you think that Bradley Cooper's like character had remorse about everything, and that's why he just kind of let himself become a geek? Because even at the end, his last line is, "I was born to be this." Do you think that he finally like had remorse at the end and was just like,
I think so, because like he is self-aware enough to the point where he is intelligent and enough to understand people's psychologies. I think he has come to the realization that he kind of deserves what he's gotten, and it just he is the classic example of you get what you deserve. And I think, you know, even though it's a bad ending, I think he, as a character, he does have some realization that he is at rock bottom, and you know, he has to basically start over again.
And I really like that. And I think the way I kind of look at Stanley, that was Bradley Cooper's character's name, I think. The way I look
Stanton.
at or Stan, whatever
Yes.
they call it.
Stanton, yes.
Yeah. Just I liked the way I look at his character development was he had remorse throughout the entire movie, but his ego made him kind of like bottle it up and be like, "Don't worry about that right now. You're on fire. You're setting fires everywhere you go. You're doing great," kind of thing. You can feel bad later. And once he became the geek and he was at rock bottom and he had nothing left, all that remorse that was in the bottle just kind of broke him, and he was just kind of like, "Yeah, this is what I deserve," because I wouldn't listen to people, and I let my own hubris and my own ego destroy myself, which was another great fucking message in the film.
Boom, that was the answer. Yeah, fucking Andrew lamented it way better than I did. Like, yeah, definitely.
Oh, come on. I only lamented it well because I let you go first. That's all it was.
So you piggybacked off mine.
I'm Bradley Cooper. It's me. I've been him the entire time.
Oh god.
I hate you.
All right, so yeah, honestly, I think I'm pretty done with this movie. Are there any other things that you guys want to mention or bring up?
Go watch it if you haven't. It's a really good movie on HBO Max. Really enjoyable.
Yeah, and if you haven't watched it, you should also watch Pan's Labyrinth as well. Because if you like the style of this one,
Yeah.
you're going to like the other one too.
Yeah, this is definitely. I mean, over the past few years, Del Toro has been making a lot more of like, I wouldn't say Oscar baity movies, because like I don't get like an Oscar bait feel from Del Toro's movies at all, ever. It's just like you can tell like this director is very experienced. You can tell that like as an artist, Guillermo definitely has something to say, and over the years he's just accumulated just such great skill at his craft that he's just basically he can make a movie and it's just seamless. Like I feel like Del Toro is at a point now where it's like a kind of like a Quentin Tarantino, where like he can just release something and it's going to be a very high quality level of good at this point. Like he knows his shit. Freaking Del Toro is just a fantastic director at this point.
Back off of your point, Matt, like Del Toro, he's been like one of my personal favorites. Like I love his movies, like because his movies are so, he has his own aesthetic and his own way of like filming and writing, directing, and everything. Like, and even his filmography is like so unique. There's Pan's Labyrinth, there's Hellboy, there's Pacific Rim, Nightmare Alley. They all have a very similar aesthetic, but they're all telling different kinds of story. Like Pacific Rim, just like a giant monster movie. It's like an homage to old school anime mechas and stuff like that. And you got Hellboy. It's a comic book movie. Like it's based off the comics, which is really great comic book series. If you've never read those, go check them out. And just his filmography is so cool and different, and that's why he's such an experienced director, in my opinion. Like, just because of everything he's done, it's not the same every single time. Personally,
Yeah, yeah. Like basically, he has the horror aesthetic going on, but yeah, like you said, all of his movies are different. Like he hasn't like written himself into a corner where he only does horror. Like he does have like some drama, some action in there, and freaking he's doing great at this point. I mean, there's still a few movies I want to catch up on in his discography, but everything that I have seen through him has been good to great. So yeah. With all that being said, do you guys want to get into ratings?
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
down for that.
do it.
Okay. Okay. I'll start off. Yeah. All things considered, this is a great movie, great Guillermo del Toro movie, great Bradley Cooper movie. Has some great lessons, awesome cinematography. Yeah. I have nothing but great things to say about it. I have a few minor criticisms, but the overall experience is really, really valuable one. I give it a 8 out of 10.
That's definitely the rating I was going to go with as well. It's a solid 8 out of 10. It has great, symbolism, great messaging throughout the film, great, just shots in general. Like, it's just overall a really great movie, and definitely deserves at least one viewing.
I would have to go a little bit lower. I would go with a 7 out of 10. Just because with as much as they were like explicitly talking about certain things, I kind of saw the theme that it was going to be like, all right, if they're talking about the difference between the wood alcohol and the normal alcohol, which one's on which side, I feel like that was going to become a very like a very important thing later on, and it was. And it kind of got you into that moment where if it was ever focused on something, you could kind of see that it was going to become an important part to the story later on. And that's what happened when I saw the whole explanation of how they find a geek and how they break a person to become a geek. So I would say that's probably my biggest my biggest criticism about it is that like if they ever focus on something, it's going to become a thing later on. So that's why it kind of got lowered for me to a 7.
Okay.
That's pretty and reasonable reason to give it that score.
Yeah. Overall, I still enjoyed it a lot. I mean, if you ever have a movie with Ron Perlman and Willem Dafoe, immediately like it's going to be a great movie to me.
They should have been in it more.
They
should have
should've.
been an easy 11 out of 10.
You had
Easy.
Hellboy and Green Goblin. What are you doing, Del Toro?
Yeah.
I love you, man.
Damn. But yeah, great movie. Love it.
All right,
All right.
we move? It follows.
Yeah. Yeah, freaking on to the next movie discussion. Now, this is also another movie that I recommended. It is called It Follows, directed and written by David Robert Mitchell. It follows the. Okay, shouldn't have said my sentence this way, but it follows. Oh my god, I did it again. Okay, it follows our main protagonist, Jay. And the movie starts off with basically our main protagonist, Jay, coming of age story. She is, going out on dates, hanging out with her friends, having sex, and, doing all the typical things a teenager would do. But shortly after she has sex, it seems that she has transmitted a disease, or you can interpret it as that. Someone starts following her, and it's a very, very good, scary movie. And I recommended it to my friends here because I wanted to show it off and see what they thought. So, yeah. What did you guys think about it?
Andrew, I'll let you go first.
It was terrible. I hated it.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. I'm fucking around. It was great. I had a good time with it.
Trash.
What I will say is, I think the the premise is really, it's weird, it's interesting, and it's very unique in terms of how they can see the entity that is chasing them throughout the movie. The way they get it, which is, I guess, spoiler, not spoiler. You have to have sex with someone, and they're going to start seeing what you were seeing beforehand. And I thought the way you end up meeting this entity was interesting, because that's not something you've ever really heard of in a movie before. Like you've seen it in different ways, but like using sex as like a thing of fear, like something you should be scared of doing. And it's really cool. I liked that idea, and I liked how you could also look at it a little further and be like, well, the entity is like a metaphor for like sex you've had, because now you have an STD, or like there's someone you had sex with in the past and you regret it, and now the thought of it will always loom over you, and yada yada yada. And I really liked that too. That was really, really, really cool. So I think I had a good time with this movie for sure.
I gotta say, with this movie, the whole ST demon, I really like.
But got him.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's the joke of the podcast.
Yep.
I'm gonna put that in the description, Rico.
That's what I immediately thought when I saw the premise of the movie. I was like, oh, okay, I get it.
SE Demon, I fucking love that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, honestly.
I really liked the first half of it. I gotta say, this movie was like, I was like, oh man, because it shows like how she was like innocent before that, before she had sex. She was completely innocent. Like everything was like very tranquil, peaceful. She liked the company she kept. She liked just being able to lounge around in a pool, just enjoy the breeze and all that. And she even had aspirations about what she would do in the future. And when she has sex with Hugh, or later revealed Jeff, when she has sex with him, she's even still talking about like, yeah, this is how I've always wanted my life to be, just hanging out with friends, having sex. And then immediately he chloroforms her, and then the movie takes a much darker path, and she's no longer that innocent girl afterwards, and she's just trying to cope with the whole sexual assault and the abuse afterwards, because it was consensual in the beginning. And then when it was like, oh no, actually I had this that I knew about before having sex with you, and now boom. And it's like, now it's like tearing her down throughout the whole movie. And I love the deterioration. I was like, dude, yeah. I could definitely see that as like the aftermath of like what something like that would do. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, and the whole setup where she is, I love that moment too, where you're explaining where she's in the car and she's talking about all of her dreams and her wants and whatnot, and then after that she gets chloroformed, and then everything just takes a complete left turn. And I don't know, I just like, I always find it difficult to do tonal shifts like that in movies, especially in horror, to make it just seem so seamless, because like there are some movies where it'll set up the male character as like, there'll be like a few shots where like he'll be a creep in some way, or it'll give the audience a hint of like, oh, he's a creep, like watch out, he's going to do something bad. When he's set up, he's genuinely a nice guy. Like, he doesn't necessarily want to do this, and you learn this later on. He's a victim himself too, and I really love that scene where they go on their date, and they're standing in line at the movies, and they're having just some good camaraderie. They're having some good talks, and then they start playing this game where they're like, oh, choose a person, and I get 3 guesses to see which person you chose, and then you have to guess why you chose that person. And basically it's her turn, and he tries to guess who it is, or no, other way around, vice versa. She's trying to guess what he wants to be, and I think he said in the theater he wanted to be the kid, because you don't have to worry about a damn thing. You still got your whole life ahead of you. And I love the scene right after where he He's trying to figure out who she would want to be. And he looks back and he points to the back of the theater and he says, "Oh, you choose her." And she turns around and she's all like, "Oh, who are you pointing at? You know, the girl in the yellow dress." And, you know, she looks and she's like, "Where? I don't see anybody." And just the look of terror on his face when he has that, you know, realization that, you know, that this thing has, you know, caught up to him in that moment, and, you know, he's realized it. Just the moment, that moment in of itself is just such a great setup for this creature. Well, even the intro of this movie is a fantastic setup for this creature.
Oh.
Just the whole beginning shot is just the whole one take where it's basically just a pan around in a circle of this girl running away from nothing. You don't even see anything in that scene, but you see the terror on her face as she's running away from this being. And just these two moments, like, of just, you know, nothing, just putting that tension there and just using essentially dead air to build tension is just really impressive to me. Like, I thought those scenes were just set up incredibly well.
I agree. I think it was just really, and I'm glad you brought up that tracking shot, because that's what really got me engaged. I was like, well, this is really, yeah, what's she running from? Like, you don't see what it is or anything. Like, the way the tension is built up in that scene is really well done. And throughout the whole movie, I like the idea that the entity in question is like slowly coming at you. It's not like charging at you. It's not coming at you in your dreams like Freddy Krueger. It's like, it's just slowly coming to you. And it creates that sense of existential dread. And I really enjoyed that concept. Like, that was really, really cool and really well done.
The thing I gotta say, too, is, like, it was never stopping. Like, it constantly was just coming after them. Like, to the point where they couldn't even live their normal lives without feeling, like, constant dread the entire time. And that kind of just, like, it kind of, like, added it to it. It's not like it's a quick thing that happens once. It's an endurance. It's like a straight up marathon. Like, it constantly happens, to the point where Hugh or Jeff, he decides to pretty much isolate himself in this house. And even in the house, like, it seemed like he was just gonna try to outlast it, because on the little cot that he had like a bunch of, like, used napkins from when he was trying to take care of himself. So it seemed like he had a lot of, like, reservations about trying to spread it to someone else, because he didn't want to put anyone else at risk like that. So he was anytime he had that urge, he took care of it himself. He didn't leave the place. He didn't want to give it to anyone. So it kind of shows, like, he wasn't okay with giving it to Jay at all. Like, he had a lot of, like,
I mean, he even explained it to her. I mean,
yeah, because for him, some random person gave it to him. He had to figure out all the rules to it on his own. Like, he didn't want to just, like, completely set her up for failure, and then, like, one, that would also, like, just not solve anything, and it would just go right back to him. And also, he wanted her to have a chance.
Exactly, yeah. That shows that he's like, what he's doing, it's fucked up, but he's at his breaking point. He's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like, I need to, like, pass this on to somebody else so I can live and just be happy for once. He's like, but I'm not going to just do to them what was done to me. I'm going to explain everything. I'm going to tell them how to survive, what they can do, the best tactics. Like, I'm not going to leave them, like, just hanging at the edge of the cliff without, like, a rope or anything.
yeah, and that does bring up, like, a mild criticism I do have about this movie. Like, upon rewatching, it does kind of bother me how he does know so much about this. Like,
Okay. Yeah,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Right
Don't get me
after
wrong. Okay, sorry. So, like, it does, like, I do like that a lot of it's not explained. I do like visually, like, how Rico was explaining how he has, like, all this setup, basically, and, like I think there was also, like a rope with cans, or like stuff like along those lines that would notify him that the thing is nearby. I do like visual, like clues like that, like how he learned certain things. But I don't know. It just kind of gets my mind wondering, like, okay, how does he know specifically, like, oh, like if you die, it'll get passed on to me. Like, how does he even know that detail? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was something that threw me off because I was like, because I think it's really cool that there's a character like that in this movie where it's like he knows so much about how to survive, but it's also that question of like, how did you learn all this if you didn't know what you were doing from the start, kind of thing,
Unless he did hook up with someone before it, and when she died, it came. Oh no, wait, yeah, no, that is how it is because the girl dies at the very beginning.
That is what happened. But it's just like
Yeah.
there's so much information that he knows that obviously it would have had to have been like a trial and error process at some point. But it's not really thoroughly explained. Which, don't get me wrong, it's not like it is a mild criticism for me. But I don't know. It's just it could have been cleaned up a little bit better. I do like how ambiguous it is. I do like how like I said, the visual representation of the house and whatnot. I just it could have been written a little bit differently. Like, I don't know, maybe make his knowledge a little more ambiguous. Maybe he doesn't know as much. I don't know.
And because that was my next point. I feel like the writing in this movie could have been a lot stronger, and because it wasn't, I feel like the actors in the movie nobody was bad, I guess, but not everybody does a great job,
Yeah.
I just feel like, and the writing at times I felt kind of unnatural, and like some of the actors in the movie felt a little unnatural when they said it, or just their performance felt kind of off. And again, that's that whole testament of if you don't have good writing, you're not going to have good performances, kind of thing. So it's not like that's one of my criticisms too. It's not like it destroys the movie for me or makes it like a 0 out of 10 thing, but it's something that's noticeable throughout the movie.
Okay. Okay. I think the acting is pretty strong for the most part. I mean, considering these are all younger kid well, I mean, I don't think they're kid actors. They're at least probably like 18, 19, maybe 20. But I thought the performances were pretty strong for the most part. I think well, okay, yeah, there's not really anybody that I have really a problem with. I mean, I guess I didn't I'm not gonna lie. I guess I didn't really like the character of Paul too much.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. I thought the whole he was just kind of giving me like really angry, jealous boy vibes throughout the entire movie. And like I'm not gonna lie. Upon rewatching it, I did find that mildly annoying. I guess you're right. The acting isn't like 100% great. I do think everyone else is pretty solid for the most part.
The lead actress, she does really good. I give her credit. Like she was definitely my favorite actor throughout everybody who was in it.
Her and her sister Kelly, I would say they're the strongest. Back to Paul. Paul sucked. Holy crap, man!
Bad writing gives you bad performances.
Oh my god! The entire time, like I was like, this guy's not likable. Like the entire time, Paul just wants pussy. Like
Paul,
Paul is the manifestation of what a simp is. Like, we don't need that.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
Come on, man. No, he's a simp. Know it.
Yeah.
He's like, well, why'd you choose him over me? I like to.
Yeah, there's this one moment where like he. Okay, again, like it not entirely his fault. Maybe it was just the way he was written, but it is a scene involving him. But do you guys remember the scene where they basically, where she tells them basically what's happening, but they themselves haven't seen anything yet, and so they're just basically staying the night with her, making sure she's safe. And do you remember when Paul's staying in the living room and then she goes out there with him?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, there is this scene where basically they hear a crash in the living room. They're in the living room and they hear something break in the kitchen. And for some reason, Homeboy is like, all right, I'm going to go upstairs, investigate, or I'm going to go notify your sister. I'm going to leave you alone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, bro, like... because like he did check and he was like, oh, I see nothing, but I'm gonna go get your sister and I'm gonna go get her and bring her downstairs. And he takes like I even counted too. I was like, bro, he's taking so long. It does not take that long to go upstairs, notify someone to come back. So it's just that moment really did annoy me because like it is obviously just trying to build up tension, and I did like the scare. Don't get me wrong, and especially the scare that comes afterwards. But that whole setup right there did bug the hell out of me because I'm like, okay, literally, you would not leave her alone right there, especially you, homeboy, who really wants to get at her. Like it just writing wise in that scene, it just didn't make sense for me. And
Exactly.
then the whole like when she goes like, well, yeah. Then when she goes upstairs and then, she's hiding in the room and then, the scare that follows suit after that. That was some good shit. But that whole thing beforehand, I didn't really love.
For me,
Yeah.
that was
Uh-huh.
great writing on Paul's part. Because I'm like, this guy, he obviously, and it pretty much just painted the entire picture out for me with Paul's character. He's like, he just wants to have sex with Jay the entire time. He just wants to have sex with her. He didn't think that anything was actually going to happen. And when the window breaks, he doesn't immediately stand up. He's like scared himself and he just stays sitting down on the couch. And then he slowly gets up and then like goes, checks it out, comes back immediately. And then he's like, I'm going to go tell your sister. I'll be back. And then he goes up there and he's a coward. Like, he wishes he was like Greg, and that's why, because Greg was super like, yeah, let's go fucking do it, let's go find this guy that gave you this ST demon, let's go get this guy, let's do this. And it's like all the shit that Paul wishes he could do. He wishes he was like brave and able to just like make these kinds of decisions, but he's like, Jay's all like, you should call the cops, and he's like, I'll get your sister and she can call the cops. And then like runs up and it's like he's just a coward the whole way. All he wanted was to fuck Jay, and it's like it was so obvious. I was like, dude, this guy sucks.
And like I was giving the movie the benefit of the doubt when it came to Paul. Like I was like, well, I guess this is intentional. There are like, if you're looking at the movie, the grander scale, like the whole metaphor of sex that's in it. Like there are guys who are literally just like that. They're all trying to fuck. But it's just like, come on, just like write it a little better, like just a tad bit better. And like to add to Matt's other point, which was like, you wouldn't just leave her alone. When I was watching it, I like thought of a better scene in my head. Like it would have made him look better as a character because one, he wants to have sex with her, so he could have been like, come with me, we'll get your sister. And they could have literally had the monster kind of like, or the entity showing up, and as they're going upstairs, she like starts noticing. And then she can get more panicky, and then they're trying to wake up the sister, and she can start panicking more and more, like, hey, get up. And, like, the creature's, like, slowly, like, they could have done something like that, you know what I'm saying? Instead of, like, the way they were trying to build the tension with him leaving for a minute, even though I guess it was, like, because he was scared, like, I don't know. I feel like there was just other, like Matt was saying, there were other ways you could have built up that tension.
Yeah, and just that whole just like character wise, like I said, it just doesn't make sense. And like, yeah, I like your point. Like maybe just take her with you. It just makes more sense, honestly, from a smart standpoint. But yeah, I mean, okay. Aside from that point, I do want to get into the scene afterwards, which is one of the more memorable scares of the movie. Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna lie. When I first watched this movie, this was probably like maybe 5 years ago or so. Yeah, I love scares that kind of catch you out of nowhere. Not like a jump scare status, but the way this scare was set up, just I'm not gonna lie, it did scare the shit out of me when I first saw it. It just the way it's shot, the angle it's at, just the tension being built up. And then, like, it kind of psychs you out for a second. Like, oh, shit, okay, no one is there. And then, like, oh, my fucking God. It just catches you out of nowhere. And it just fucking, like, I don't know about you guys, but it worked for me really well.
So for me, that was scary as shit, dude. Like, he's listed as the giant man in the credits. And unfortunately, he passed away on April 25th, 2018. and I think this is his only movie credit. I could be
Oh,
wrong
wow.
about that, but man, just his entire like size, like coming down and then like shimmying around her, like it unsettled me. Like he just came out of nowhere and like immediately was just all up in her space, and I was like, if this guy gets a hold of you, he's tossing you over the fucking building. Like you don't have a chance against that. That guy's just like all encompassing. Like holy crap.
I definitely like that. That whole scene was really, really good. Just the whole everything he was like doing, like just his like you were saying, like just his presence. You're like, oh my god, that is terrifying. Like it didn't for me, like personally, horror movies don't like when they do the whole jump scares and stuff like that. They don't really get to me, and this one didn't either. But I liked the execution of it. It was really well done. Like it reminded me of this old game series that I love. It's like my all-time favorite, which is Dead Space. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it or
Yeah.
played it.
Of course.
Yeah, it was. That's a golden. That's the golden one. That's the one that scared me because I played that back on the PS3 when I was a kid, and you're still a kid, so everything still scares you, and that kind of like it broke me, I guess, as a kid because it was so scary and so horrifying. So everything after that, I was kind of like, man, this isn't that scary. But that's more of like a personal thing, to be honest. It doesn't take away from the fact that that was really well done. It was really good. It was really good, and I also like the sequence towards the end when they're trying to stop it at the pool, or was that towards the end, or it was like
Yeah. Yeah.
end with that's where it was. Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't messing it up. I like how that was shot and how there was points where you could see it and then you couldn't see it, and when you couldn't see it, it was kind of scary. It was even scarier because it's like they're just random stuff flying in the air being thrown at the kids and stuff. Like it was just it was really good. It was really good in terms of unique horror scenes. Like I hadn't seen a horror movie like that in a minute.
I want to touch on that, but real quick, I want to go back to the Giant Man.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
I just read his IMDb, and apparently he's one half of the world's tallest twins, and he stands at 7'7".
Diabolical.
Jesus
That
Christ.
is insane. Like, I thought at first like it was a trick of the camera, like to make him look bigger, but no,
A little bit, kind of looked like that. A
but
little bit.
now that I think about it, maybe the dude really had to like get on his knees to get underneath that door hinge, like, or that door frame. Like this guy is massive, 7'7". Holy crap! But continuing back on to what you were talking about at the end, like that end scene with the pool. I gotta say, like the degree of like consistency with the ST Demon, like it honestly feels like it's so inconsistent. Like his sophistication, like everything he does, like most of the time he like goes very very slowly walking and everything, and then you had the scene where spoiler, Greg gets killed by his mom. The demon form changed into his mom, and when that happened, she straight up jumped on him and got him. And then there's also another scene where it turns into a little kid to start crawling through a hole, and it's like screaming like crazy. It's like I don't understand like the consistency of this guy. Is it like
Well, okay. The demon is it turns into somebody you know. So every time you see the demon, depending on which character, well, it's mostly our protagonist Jay's. It's someone in her life that she knows. Somebody. Like, for example, do you remember there? Okay, so one thing I noticed about this movie too is that there's no parents in this movie, like at all. There's like one shot at the beginning of the movie where you see the mom, I think, like opening mail, but there's no really like adult presence in the movie, really. But to harken back to the beginning of the movie, there are some shots of people that are in the picture frames that are the entities that you see throughout the movie. Like, for example, the one where they're driving away and you see that naked dude on the roof. So apparently that one entity is I believe that's her dad.
oh.
See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That changed the whole perspective on the movie. Then wait a minute.
Yeah, it's not a point that gets hammered home like very well, in my opinion. It's kind of like one of those things, like you'll blink and you'll miss it. But yeah, it is something that Greg mentions, that it will sometimes turn into somebody you know, or it'll just be someone random. But it is like a point that he does bring across to her, that it could turn into somebody you know.
Oh, that is right. He does mention that in the movie. Okay. I think that, but that's a good point that you make, because I didn't even, like, they don't really, I guess they didn't really hammer that point well, like you were saying, because I didn't even realize that was
It was
bad.
something I picked up on my recent watch, bro. Yeah. I was like, yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where, like, if you blink, you'll miss it. It was like a quick piece of dialogue, and that, like, a piece of visual storytelling where, like, if you're not paying attention, it's kind of like one of those things where, like, if you are paying, like, very close attention, or, if you rewatch it, like I do so many times, it does reward you for picking up on details like that.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that. I was like, wow, that's interesting.
But yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up too, that this movie does that a lot of horror movies don't do. I love that this movie doesn't go into the trope of, like, oh, freaking the one character sees it and all of her friends just think she's crazy. Like, I love that this movie just does include her friends, because they themselves witnessed this activity going on firsthand. Like, I love that beach scene where they all come to that realization, where the thing starts picking up her hair. Well, the setup is you see a thing in the background, and you're like, oh shit, like, it finally caught up to her. And then it starts, fucking with her hair. And then they all come to the realization, they're like, oh god, your hair. And then the one kind of useful thing Paul does, when he picks up the chair and he hits the entity with it, and then the chair breaks. And I love that moment, because that was like the final, like, nail in the coffin. Like, okay, you all saw that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love that, like, it doesn't, this movie doesn't treat its characters like they're idiots. Yeah, even though Paul is a pretty big idiot.
Oh, he definitely is. But, like, even before they all had, like, definitive proof that, oh wow, this thing is really here, like, she's not crazy. Even before that, everyone was so, like, on board with just being, like, that support group.
Yeah.
Like, they took it to her beach house. Like, even the guy across the street was like, alright, then let me just help you out with this. Like, I don't believe you, but I'm gonna still support you. Like, all of them were, like, super freaking supportive. That is an emotional, like, support group that anyone should try to, like, aspire to have. Like, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good. I was like, dang, these guys are, like, major day one homies then. They're willing to just and help her fight an entity that could probably kill them. That's some real loyalty right there.
Yeah, freaking, like I said, it's just something a lot of horror movies nowadays just don't do. It's just, it will treat their main character like they're crazy, and they have to, like, prove this to everybody. Which, don't get me wrong, there is that element of she does kind of have to, like, prove it to them. But I do love that it's set up in a way that they experience it themselves. It's not something she had to, like, experiment with or something. Yeah. It was just like a natural event that just happened in the movie, and they happened to be there.
So, what did you guys think about the whole her having sex with, like, people she knew so that they could see the demon too?
Well, she wasn't having sex with people she knew.
I mean, she had sex with Greg, and then later on she had sex with Paul.
Yeah. Well, okay, those two. Okay, yeah, you're right. But, like, there was a whole, like, middle section where she does kind of go off and tries to give it to other people.
Those guys on the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Did she actually have sex with him? Or?
But she does. Implied. That's implied, yes. It is implied that she did have sex with them.
So why didn't she give them, like, any details about what was going to happen? Because he came back, like, immediately.
It is a little, kind of like hand-waving, like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, I do think it is... I mean, I don't think it's entirely Jay's fault, because... Well... Okay, in a way, yeah, because she did lure Greg over. I do think it was a little irresponsible of her to, have sex with Greg, despite how handsome and persuasive he is. But yeah, I do think like as as a character, it was mildly irresponsible. I thought like after that, like okay, you for sure can't have sex with Paul or anyone else after this now, especially after Greg meets his fate. But yeah, I guess I do agree with that. Yeah,
Makes Paul more of a simp when you think about it too.
Yeah.
yeah,
Demon,
poor Paul.
you know what? I want that ST demon. You know,
Yeah.
I just
It's like, that should have been me. But
not him, but me.
Yeah. The thing that I really found interesting about this movie was like, they were so like just calloused to the idea of sex. Like after the first time that you see Jay has sex, everyone in the movie was so calloused by it. They were just like, oh yeah, it's just an act, you know? And it's like Kelly obviously had a thing for Greg, yet she was completely fine with Greg having sex with her sister. And it was like, okay, Jay's like in the bed, she's like in the hospital bed. She can't exactly run if a demon comes by, so she's all like, it's either going to be Paul or Greg. Greg. He's the one that's like the good-looking one, the more confident one, the one that doesn't seem like he's afraid. I'm going to have sex with him so that he can go have sex with another person and then spread it to someone else so that I don't have to be on alert right now.
I mean, do you think that was her thought process going into it?
Oh, definitely. When she was in the bed and she looked at the door and she heard the footsteps, she was like, I can't get away if anything comes after me right now. Like, she was like, Greg, you're a good-looking guy. You're going to be able to go fuck someone immediately after. And then he was talking to women, like, right after having sex with Jay. And I imagine he was trying to spread it to someone else so that they wouldn't have to worry.
I don't get that feel, though. Like, I felt like she was, like, genuinely, like, attracted to him, though.
I wouldn't agree, just because apparently they did have sex back in the day. From what, there was like a line that said that they did hook up one time back in the day, but they...
Well, yeah. They
just,
do already have like an established connection, so I kind of felt like this was kind of like rekindling old feelings. And yeah, like I said, I still do think it is irresponsible on Jay's part. Greg's perspective from that point, he's still kind of having a tough time believing it because, that incident earlier when they were at the boathouse and they were having that experience with the entity, he's the only one there that didn't witness it. So I can understand why he's the most skeptical still. He believes her, but he's still like the most skeptical because he wasn't the one that had that experience with everyone else. So I can understand why he's dumb and he wants to fuck whatever. But yeah, I do think you do bring up a good point where she is looking at the doorway and she does get a little scared, like, oh shit, what if it is there? But I don't know. I also do feel like Greg's presence is also kind of like a calming one at that too towards her. So I do kind of feel like there is an element of, like she just needs the comfort. And, I feel like that's also like another kind of theme of the movie with, sex being a part of it. And so, yeah, I mean, I get your point of view, but I slightly disagree.
I think I see both your guys' points of views. Like with you, Matt, I definitely, like it's sort of like with the whole sex concept, like it's because like you were saying, like Greg is more like confident. He's like more manly in a sense. He has more courage. So in like just like looking at it like off a simple sexual thing, like the male that like is like more male or female that is like more attractive, more confident, less afraid. Like you're just automatically attracted to that. Like that's just how attraction works. So I like how they did that. But I kind of agree with Rico a bit more just because I don't think she had genuine feelings for Greg. I think it was kind of like what he was saying. Like it's that basic instinct of like, you know what? He seems like he will survive if I give this to him versus Paul, which is like he's a total bitch and he will die. So let me see if this guy who has a fighting chance can actually kind of do something about it. And I guess when you look at it like that, because I think in the movie, doesn't it mention that she actually liked Paul, but Paul kissed her sister or something like that, right? They had mentioned that.
Yeah,
in the
something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That scene where he went upstairs and was hella dumb. Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was I definitely agree with Rico more. I think it's more of like she had sex with Greg to like in a way protect Paul because she didn't want him to just die instantly.
Yeah, it's because Paul can't pull bitches.
He really can.
He can't.
He is a simp bitch boy. He deserves no coochie at all.
And then you obviously look at Paul, you're like, he can't pull shit. And then you look at Greg, and you're like,
He pulls everything.
Greg,
The elf male.
Greg fucks. Like, Greg fucks. Like, that motherfucker fucks. He was like, immediately after having sex with Jay, he went to a library or some social place and then started, like, got into a group of women. He was just talking to them, like, oh, yeah, what's up? Hi. And then,
He
like,
was like, "Hey, I'm Greg. I have an ST demon. What do you say we have a good time and start a ritual?"
yeah. He was like, all right, just fucking spread it the next day. Let's do it. He had no problems while Paul's out here looking for prostitutes.
Oh, I know, Paul, my guy.
Yeah, but like in the movie, he does care about Jay though. Like
He does.
you could tell, like he actually does like her. Like I mean, I actually kind of do agree with you guys' point now. Now that you guys mention it that way, like she is trying to like in a way. Well, I don't know. It does kind of. She is trying to like give it to somebody else and trying to. I mean, I don't get like she's trying to save her own skin vibes. I guess I guess I do agree with your guys' point that it is kind of like, oh, Greg would be like the more like candidate that makes more sense in this situation. But I mean, I don't know. I like obviously Greg does start to like her, and then like shortly after that, she kind of like she basically ghosts him until he fucking basically dies. Which I don't know. I found that moment a little strange too. I felt like after that they should have maybe kept in contact a little bit until like the very last moment until he died.
Yeah, can we talk about like the things leading up to Greg's death and also Greg's death?
Yeah, I think Greg. I mean, I did think it was a really creepy scene, and especially that like it turned into his mother. I do. I mean, I was curious to think why you think the creature's inconsistent in that moment because it leapt at him or like what about that scene with the creature was like inconsistent to you, Rico?
Well, I feel like throughout the whole movie, like the creature is just like walking slowly and everything, and then you see like there's like two scenes in particular that I'm just like, what the fuck? Because it's like the creature is at the door and knocking on the door, and it turns and looks at Jay and then goes back to it, and then the moment Greg opens the door, the thing just fucking leapt at him, and it was like she got off the floor, like her legs were up in the air, and it's like there was like so many different opportunities where the creature could have just done that to Jay or anyone else, and then it's like out here blowing holes through walls and doors and shit, and it's like, why ever bother like breaking a window when you could just bust through the door and just like anytime, like why not? Why just bust through it and just get them? Like it just seems so weird throughout the movie because it's like throwing humans like hella far away and like throwing objects at them. Like why not just throw shit at them like all the time?
And
Yeah, there was that moment where, like, even the moment where the creature's trying to get Jay and it breaks that door. And then, so, like, obviously you could tell this thing is powerful. Like, it does have some type of supernatural strength. So, yeah, I guess I can kind of see where it, if it did just, break the door down, it would be a little different. I think it would be a lot less tension filled that way. I don't know. I guess I'm still a fan of the slow approach. I guess I kind of view the whole leaping thing kind of like to me it's kind of like a predator instinct. Kind of like you don't go for that leap unless you're like 100% sure you're going to get it. Like that's kind of like the vibe it gave me. Like this creature is like a predator, but it's slow, but it's very smart. Like, it's not gonna, like I said, it's not gonna take that leap unless it's like, sure, it could, catch its prey.
Well, I mean, you could take it like that, but then at the same time, when it came up on Jay when she was sitting in the chair and lifted her hair up, like,
I know.
Could have easily done some shit.
Like you obviously you had her at that point.
Yeah,
like why are you fucking with her hair? Like,
No,
yeah,
exactly.
obviously. Yeah,
that's for me too. Like, that brings me back to my point of like that's why the writing wasn't as good to me, because it's like you could have, if we're looking even like Rico was saying, like if you're looking at it at a Predator point, like it doesn't it makes less sense if you look at it with a Predator point, because it's like if that was the case, she would just ripped her head off when she pulled her hair on the chair. Like that would have just been the end of the movie. Like, and I get like you can't do it like instantly, and you got to have a scene where the monster does almost get them at one point. So I get that, but I think it just could have been written a little bit better, personally.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff too. Like when it turned into the little kid and crawled through the hole, like it was screaming. And it's like, if it turns into people that the person knows, why even follow? Why not just turn into like Kelly or something and just start screaming and like outside or alone where there's nowhere that she could escape from, and then just being like, my leg, basically just screaming in pain like that. She comes up to it and then immediately just kills her. Like, or just waits in her room until she comes back, because she always circles back to her room. Like,
I just like, even like if the creature is as smart as like the movie is like conveying to us, it's just like it would have done things a little differently then if you think about it, because it's like that whole beach sequence, that was one, like that was really good. Like I enjoy the beach sequence. It was really cool. Like I do like how it like slowly pulled up her hair and everyone's like, what the fuck? And then like it starts trying to get at her and everything begins to spiral or whatever. But I don't know, it's distracting when you realize this entity is pretty strong. So if it had the chance, it would have just killed her like right then and there. I don't know, I feel like that was one of the pet peeves I had throughout the movie too, but it wasn't like, it didn't ruin anything for me, but it was just kind of, it was fairly distracting.
What did you guys think about the final sequence of the movie?
It was awesome.
The final sequence, I thought, are you talking about the end shot, or are you talking about the final like?
No, I'm talking about specifically like the pool scene.
Okay, then yeah, with the pool, I thought that was really good. It was another scene where I was like, man, why is this guy even concerned about his health? Like the ST demon, I was just like, he's been taking bullets to the head, standing right back up. Like, why is he even concerned about like getting electrocuted? But
right, that was a good point. I didn't even think about that. That is a really good point. Like, why is he worried about that?
Yeah, I was like, man, what the hell? Like, just go in there, get her, leap on her. She's in a pool.
Yeah, I do think their plan is a little silly.
Yeah,
like the whole thing trying to electrocute it at first.
Yeah,
and then it basically like just doesn't work. Like I do love the set piece of the thing throwing things at her. Like I felt that shit whenever it would like basically hit her. I'm like, oh fuck. That's like fucking toaster to the face right there. Jesus.
Yeah, and that's also like, Paul's plan too. Fucking idiot.
Yeah.
You know what? Paul, ST demon chasing me. When I get in the pool, put a bunch of stuff around it so you start throwing it at me. But like, I mean, I know why all that stuff is there, but it's still kind of like, you're kind of monster to get.
Why?
Yeah.
Yeah, freaking that whole like upon rewatching this movie. I mean, I still love this movie, but I do have way more criticisms on it upon like this most recent watch. Like it's just like stuff like that, just the poor planning of that whole sequence and whatnot, and like how Paul's like, oh, like, am I aiming at it? Like, bro,
oh yeah,
like, well, one, Jay's not even at the correct angle to like give that proper assessment. Like, how the fuck is she gonna tell if you're aiming at it at the right angle? Like, come on, bro. And then and then two, she's been hit with like 2 or 3 objects. She's probably hella disorientated. How the fuck can she make that proper assessment? I thought that whole sequence where he's like trying to aim the gun, like, oh, is the head right here? Am I aiming at it right? And then like he makes the ballsy choice at the end where she's swimming out. He fucking starts shooting at the thing while she's coming out, and I'm like, you can't even see this thing, and he's still like, and you even see, there is even a shot underneath the water too, where you see these bullets basically barely missing her,
like inches.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh my god. Yeah, Paul's gotten worse upon each rewatch. I feel like.
Kelly got shot too. I'm not. Didn't she get shot or something?
Like
Yara, her friend did. Her friend.
Yara got shot in the leg. I'm like, dude, fucking use your peripheral, man. Just like, if you see him aiming a gun and it looks like it's aiming at you, you should fucking move.
Exactly. Yeah. It was so confusing. I was like, get out of the way.
And thank God Paul's plan was shit too, because if that ST demon threw like one of those electronic devices into the pool and electrocuted her, it would have been it. Like, so even if the ST demon got in the pool and Jay got out, it wouldn't have worked either way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely some annoying moments in this movie, but yeah, freaking, like I said, I still love it. It caught me at a time in my life where I really enjoyed it, and I definitely I put it up there with some of my favorite horror movies. Is there any other points that you guys want to get across, or do you guys want to finish up this conversation?
I have one. So, I was trying to like I do this a lot where I put myself in the position of like these types of movies where I'm like, what would I do in this position if I was like getting followed by this? And I was thinking about it, what I would do, and I was like, this would be my meal ticket, dude. Like, this would be the biggest meal ticket in the world. Like, I could reveal to the entire world that there are supernatural essences like throughout the world. Because if there's like a demon, then the reverse is obviously true, where there's like heaven and like angels and all that. So it's like, I'd be like, hey, you can interact with this thing while it follows me, throw a blanket on it. That's a fucking entity. Sorry, I hit my mic. I was like, that's a fucking entity coming at me. Like, I would get everyone involved. I'll make the biggest like show out of it. Everyone would be like, yeah, dude, the fucking demons exist. Like, holy shit. And then I would get the government involved and basically be like, hey, you gotta protect me. If I have sex with anyone else, then I'm just gonna spread it to more and more people and endangering more people. You guys gotta keep me far away each time. Like, anytime it comes up to me, you gotta relocate me. I wouldn't have to work a day in my life. I would get really nice, like, luxury accommodations.
Or, Rico, you could Bradley Cooper and have everything you want, have all that government protection, and one day the government's like, you know what? What if we just kill him and the demon dies, and then you're gone, and then that's it? Because you can't trust the government, guys.
Yeah, I'm watching X-Files, and 100% I don't trust the government.
It just goes right back to the person before me. Like, what'd you guys solve? But at the same time, they could also use it as like for science. They could be like, all right, well, what is this thing? What can we do to this? Like, how can we combat that? Because I feel like if anyone finds out like that there's a power that they don't understand, they're gonna try to understand it by doing whatever they can to it.
That's a good point. So humans are pretty much like, oh, that's something we don't understand. Let's understand it and then control it.
Yeah.
Let's weaponize it.
Exactly.
Yep. Let's
send them out to wars and...
Yeah, they're sending you on covert missions, Rico.
Rico, they're just going to send you to every war. They're going to be like, Rico, get in Ukraine. You got to get there now. They need you.
Yeah, I'm just walking on the other side of it, letting the thing just push everything out of the way.
Like, we have a special job for you. Okay, what's up? We're gonna need you to get into Russia. Okay, what am I doing? You're gonna have sex with all the gay soldiers. What? Well, we gotta pass the entity on. They're not gonna know it's there, and it'll take them out. It's perfect.
They'll never escape.
You're like, well, if it's for my country.
Salute you, my friend.
We salute you, and bring in.
What about you guys?
Anything
what
else
would you
guys want to
do?
think of?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Andrew, anything else you want to bring up?
Um, well,
Oh,
the movie.
okay. There is one thing, but go on, Andrew. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I was just gonna say, aside from all its, issues and stuff, like the writing and some of the choices, directorial wise, I think it's still pretty cool, solid horror movie. There's worse ones out there. So
Hell yeah. Just one thing I wanted to mention before we go into our ratings. I am a huge fan of the 80s score here. Like, I am just a sucker for, 80s type of synth type stuff. But I really do like how subtle the score is here. It's very, like, I wouldn't say it's atmosphere. Well, it is atmospheric at times, but it's very like yeah, it has a very like '80s like retro vibe, and I don't know. I love the vibes that it gives whenever the score goes on.
the music was really really good. I like the songs they picked. They were there for a reason, and that was cool. So I enjoyed the music. That's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. Actually,
Now that I think
Yeah,
about it, I don't even remember the soundtrack. I feel like it just blended in with the background.
yeah, it's very like yeah, it's very like I said. I wouldn't say it's ambient, but yeah, it's very subtle. I would say like, but whenever it is there, like I said, I really enjoy like the '80s synth kind of themes going on in the score. It's very subtle, but I do like how it's used.
cool.
So yeah, you guys want to get into ratings now? I'm pretty much done discussing.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Let's rock and roll.
All right. Okay. So yeah. So all things considered, after rewatching the movie, I still do love it. But I am definitely of the argument that you could be critical of things that you love. And yeah, I do love this movie less compared to how I've watched it before in the past. There are some criticisms about it that stand out more upon this rewatch. I still do love it. I think David Robert Mitchell is a great director. I think his movie that came out after this, From Under the Silver Lake, is a much better movie than this one. But yeah, in this one, I could definitely tell that he's, crafting his own kind of style. And, I like what he's got. I'm really interested to see what he has to offer in the future. So, yeah, my rating for this movie was always, it was always an 8 out of 10. But, I'm not gonna lie. Paul's kind of a shithead, so I'm gonna harken it down to a 7 out of 10. Still love it. Solid movie. And yeah, what do you guys think?
Well, I would probably give it. I'd give it like a solid, like a 7 out of 10. It was enjoyable, but nothing was like so bad. I would rate it like a 5 or a 4 or anything like that. By the way, fuck you, Paul, for ruining Matt's rating. You shithead. Very rude.
Yeah, just hearing you guys talk about it more, I'm like, yeah, I can't defend Paul.
Yeah.
It's okay. We all have those. We all have those movies where there's that character. As much as you love the movie, they bring it down a notch. So we all have been there. But yeah, I give it follows a solid 7 out of 10.
All right. So I know we talked a lot of shit on Paul, but there was one character I absolutely hated the entire time, and it's Yara. I hated Yara so much. She was so messy. She farted, and then she also like fell
I
as.
love that moment.
Oh my god!
What?
I was like, what the hell? And then she fell asleep in potato chips in Greg's car. Like, she had just potato chips all broken up around her, and she was, like, sleeping and snoring. And I was like, you messy bitch. I hated her. I hated her way more than Paul. And the thing I was like, every scene she just appeared in, I was like, I just didn't know what her relationship was. I was like, are you another sister? Like, why were you also in the house? No one said you were going to be in the house the whole time. You were just there, and it was just expected for you to be there. I hated her. I hated her so much. she read so many quotes that I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be important. What is this quote about? And I was like, that didn't have anything to do with what was going on. I was like, what the fuck, Yara? Your little, like, I don't know, that little circle thing phone that she had where it was like powder with the mirror, but it's like a phone.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, is that a thing?
I didn't know what that was. I was like, dude, I just hate you. I just don't like you. But
Yara didn't to me that much. I mean, I really like the scene where she farts in front of them. I mean, for me, it just kind of established like how comfortable they are with each other. So, I mean, it didn't bother me that much. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she didn't really hinder it that much for me at all. Honestly, she's hardly even there. She doesn't really have that many lines of dialogue. Honestly.
I will not lie to you guys. I completely forgot about Yara until Rico mentioned her. But yes, she was so. Oh my! Why was she even there?
Yeah, like I could just imagine her sleeping in fucking potato chips with like salt on her fingers and just being like, that's just how you do it. I can't sleep without. And I'm just like, I just hate that. I was just like, it's just so messy to me. It was just giving me like legitimately worked up. I was just like, I can't handle it. Just because of her, 6 out of 10.
Ouch.
Definitely.
All right then.
But yeah, I gotta say, I actually would give it a 6 out of 10. I still enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole premise of it. But I would say 6 out of 10 just because I didn't like the crescendo at the end, like the whole end scene. I felt like it could have been like an experiment that could have happened in the middle of the movie. Like, okay, well, let's test its limits. Like, what if we can do this? Like, but it was like the whole build-up was to that moment, and I was like, it's not very good. Like, I didn't really... I thought the plan was terrible, and I just didn't like how that was like the whole end thing. And then I just really did not like Paul. And I just questioned the whole, like, thought process of, like, why are they together now at the end? I was like, she liked him, yeah, but it seemed like she was just kind of doing it to, like, kind of help herself. I didn't really feel like she returned his feelings the way that he had it for her. And it was just like, I don't know. There was just a lot of, like, desensitized to sex throughout the movie that just kind of seemed like, I feel like people would care more about, like, the act of sex or just having sex with a stranger in general. Like, I feel like there would be more, like, tension or, like, I just feel like people are not that cool with just having, like, casual sex like that. A lot of people are not fine with it at all. So I was just like, it kind of took me out of it a little bit in certain areas, but that's why I would give it a 6 out of 10. Why I would give it a 6 out of 10.
Rico with the sex jokes.
Just keeps rolling in. All right, so all right, that just about does it for episode 2 of AM Podcast. Next episode 3, will be Andrew's turn for a recommendation. So, yeah, I'll give this last bit to you, Andrew. What are you going to be recommending?
Oh, yeah, it's Cinnamon Daddy's time to shine. Here we go. So, the movies that I picked for the recommendations for the next episode are going to be Warrior, which is directed by Gavin O'Connor. That's a really great sports film. I'll just leave it at that. And then also Spider-Man No Way Home, a movie that we have not talked about yet because we didn't have this podcast when it came out, but I'm very excited that we're going to do it.
Yeah, another indie movie.
Absolutely. We love indie comic book movies. That's what we're here for.
Oh, yeah. Low budget, I love it. Yeah.
Unknown actors. Like, I hadn't even heard of, what was the name again? Robert Pattinson, right? From the Batman. I didn't know who he was.
Yeah, first-time directors, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Reeves. Is he even a real director, or is this like his first? Who knows? We will IMDb it.
Yeah, we'll check it out. He's got a good.
Who are these no names?
Right? What? I don't understand.
Hell yeah. Okay, so all right, so yeah, that about does it. All right, so yeah, next week it'll be Rico's recommendation, and yeah, and then it'll be full circle. Come back to me. So yeah, there you have it, guys. Episode 2 done. I am excited for next week's discussion. I've already seen both movies, so I'm ready to go. My guns are loaded.
Yeah, I'm.
Anything else you guys want to plug in before we get off?
Be kind to each other. That's my plug. Be kind, guys.
Also,
If not, I will find you.
Also, we have an Instagram page.
We do!
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have an Instagram and also a YouTube page. Currently, still trying to work out how to upload on Spotify and Apple Music and other platforms, but that'll come in due time. But in the meantime, you can follow us over on Instagram, and you can also check out our YouTube channel. Both are AM podcast. Just type us up, and you'll find us. All right.
Yeah.
You guys want to say anything else?
Have a great day. Thanks for listening. We love you. I don't know if it's too soon to say that, but it's just how we feel.
We're just a little too amped up right now.
100%.
That was the ending I was looking for. Thank you. All right, guys. All right, have a good night.
All right,
Take it
you
easy.
too. Bye-bye.
Good night, guys.
Bye-bye.